with this endless parade of distractions and political posturing and phony scandals, Washington's taken its eye off the ball.
You're saying no corruption?
No.
None.
No. There were some boneheaded decisions. Out of a
but no
local
mass
office.
corruption.
Not even mass corruption. Not even a smidgen of corruption.
Okay.
Not even a smidgen of corruption. Now, that was President Obama talking about the IRS scandal back in February. And just yesterday, the president brushing aside the problems plaguing his administration again.
Sometimes the news that's coming off is these are just Washington fights. They're fabricated issues. They're phony scandals that are generated.
You heard the president, phony scandals, fabricated fights. And joining us, Representative and former IRS lawyer Michelle Bachmann. Good evening, Congresswoman.
Good evening. Thanks for having me on this evening.
Well, the president said not a smidgen of corruption just a couple months ago, and now he's saying he's repeating again phony scandal. And of course, we now get the news about targeting Senator Grassley. Your response to the president?
Well, there's no question this is a scandal. It's a scandal of epic proportions, big enough that it could bring down a presidency. The only thing that's phony are all of the denials that are coming out of the White House, because we learned this week the IRS admitted that they themselves released private, confidential tax return information. And again, as a former tax official, if I would have done that as an employee of the IRS, I would have been referred to the Justice Department, the criminal division. I would have not only lost my job, Greta, I would have been subject to a felony of 5 years hard time in a federal penitentiary. That's what we're talking about. That's how serious this is. The IRS has broken laws, and the American people need a redress of this grievance.
All right, listen to my words carefully and tell me what would have happened. If you, when you were at the IRS as a lawyer, more than once, multiple times, even frequently used, quote, inappropriate criteria to sort out different people who you did audits or held things up for. Inappropriate criteria. Is that a problem?
It's a major problem. The way that it works at the IRS, everything is by the book. There's big manuals that everyone in the IRS has to go by, and you have to follow every jot and tittle of the manuals, and then your supervisor checks your work. So it's virtually impossible to go up or down the food chain with problems going from supervisor to supervisor to supervisor. They get caught. And here's the other thing, Greta. When it comes to confidential tax information, as a federal tax lawyer, I couldn't even share a tax return with anyone in my office, any other lawyer. Only people on the designated chain were allowed to have that information for obvious reasons, because it's so highly confidential. And this week, the IRS admitted that they betrayed that public trust.
And the reason I use the word is the inappropriate criteria, because that, I think, is how the commissioner of the IRS is describing it, is so it's just inappropriate criteria that was being used.
Well, it's far beyond that, Greta. They have broken the law that's already established, which is no one can release confidential tax information. They not only did it one time with one return, we also know that over 1.1 million documents were wrongfully sent by Lois Lerner to the Justice Department Criminal Division. The Criminal Division only looks at employee behavior, but yet Lois Lerner wanted the Justice Department to look at the behavior of the nonprofits themselves. 12,000 different nonprofits, as a matter of fact. So this isn't a small problem. This is of epic proportion. It's only beginning.
Congresswoman, thank you.
Thank you,
And the IRS targeting is all too real for our next guest, a panel of Tea Party leaders. So how do they feel about President Obama dismissing the scandal? You'll hear from them next.